All right, hey everybody, it's David Kramer, the Critical Thinking Christian. Today I'm going to talk about a contradiction, two different stories in two different books. And what I'm going to talk about today is the feeding of the 5,000 and then when Jesus walked on the water and the disciples' different reaction to it, even though it's the same story. They're different. I don't know what you want to say. The stories differ in some parts, but what I wanted to make sure of was he also fed the 4,000, and that is a different story. He let's see. He departed in the 4,000, which is Matthew 15, verse 29 to 39. He came nigh to the Sea of Galilee, okay, and he went up to a mountain and sat down there. And then when they departed, when he sent the multitude away in that book, they took a ship and came to the coast of Magdala, okay. So I want to make sure that was different. In Matthew and in Mark, he's in the desert, okay, and in both books it says that, and they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 baskets full, and they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, beside women and children, okay? And then in Mark, it says, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes, and they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. So essentially it's the same story, okay? But what's different is after, and it's here in verse 23, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray, and when the evening was come, he was there alone. Okay, let's see. Let's go to 22. And straightway Jesus constrained the disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent the multitude away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray, and when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with the waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit, and they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Okay, now here's a difference. This is different from Mark. This Matthew has a different addition to the story, okay. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. And when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, Be thou of little, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of truth thou art the Son of God. Okay? And when they were gone over, they came unto the land of Gennesaret. Okay? Now, in this one, it says here, and straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling in rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the fourth watch of the night he cometh unto them, walking on the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out, Darn it! For they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and saith unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Now, there's no story of Peter in here, but like I said, we can assume this was the same 5,000 because it was a desert, which I don't have that up here anymore. But anyway, and he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased. They were amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered, for they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. Now, there's only two stories, one in Matthew and one in Mark, that of 5,000s, and from what I understand here, I'm going to go over to, let's see. Let's go to 35, because this, if I'm correct, was also in the desert. Yes. And when the day was now spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, now the time is far past. You know, and then they're talking about feeding the people. And here, and when Jesus heard of it, okay, the disciples took the body, they buried John. And when Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship unto a desert place apart. And when the people heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the city. So it seems like the same story. And if it is, there's two different reactions from the disciple. In Matthew, they worship him and say he's God, and in the Son of God. And in Mark, their hearts hardened. They don't even think about the loaves and the fishes, plus the fact that he was walking on water. So once again, here are two different contradicting stories. That, you know, I showed you the 4,000. That's totally different because he's up in a mountain. Here he's in the desert. So you can assume that these two stories are the same story, but it's totally different. So once again, you know, we can assume that the Bible is contradicting itself. So that's all I have for now. You know, let me know what you think. And you know, I'm looking into Daniel 9, because there's certain aspects of Daniel 9 that are in the Hebrew Bible that are different from our Bibles, except like the King James. Okay. One thing I learned is that there are no capital letters in Hebrew. Okay. I was a King James reader, so there's, you know, capital letters in there, but in the Hebrew Bible, that is the, you know, that the Jews read, there are no capital letters, because there are no capital letters in their alphabet, as far as I know. That I got from Toby, a singer. So I'm going to look into that and Daniel 9 and what it actually says, and then I'm going to make a video on that. So that's all I got for today, and until next time, I'm David Kramer, the Critical Thinking Christian.